I'm Azaria Tagaya, and this is Nightline, the top stories. Moscow looks to boost ties with ASEAN under Malaysia's chairmanship. And former Pulau Penang Deputy Chief Minister 2 P. Ramasamy claims trial to CBT charges involving over 850,000 ringgit. Good morning. Russia is looking to deepen its relationship with Malaysia, describing the country as a very reliable and important partner, signalling strong interest in closer cooperation, especially within Southeast Asia. Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed hope that ties with ASEAN under Malaysia's current chairmanship will advance with Putrajaya support. Putin said this at a historic meeting with Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim at the Kremlin in Moscow on Wednesday, ushering in a new era for Malaysia-Russia relations. It was the first such visit by a Malaysian leader in nearly 20 years. During the meeting, Putin emphasized the importance of bilateral relations and said Moscow hopes for deeper ties with ASEAN during Malaysia's chairmanship of the group.
Малайзия наш давний, очень надежный и значимый партнер. И в целом, и в Юго-Восточной Азии. Знаю, что с 1 января этого года вы являетесь председателями в ASEAN. Мы рассчитываем, что наши отношения с этим уважаемым солидным объединением при вашей помощи будут развиваться.
Putin said the two countries are closely connected and that Moscow and Putrajaya enjoy stable trade and economic ties, while Anwar described Russia as a great friend of Malaysia. The meeting covered a wide range of bilateral issues and explored the potential for increased cooperation in trade, investment, agriculture and agri-commodities, education, aerospace and energy. Anwar expressed hope that the two countries would hold important meetings in the coming days.
We have taken a position to ensure that the collaboration is covering all fields of endeavor. So I think we wish you well. I know it's been a very busy time. You met so many important leaders in the last few weeks, and I sympathize with you, but we wish you well. And we look forward to the next few days, even after my departure from Kazan, success in all the deliberations.
Both leaders also exchanged views on regional and international developments of mutual interest. While conveying his best wishes to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, Putin also invited the king to visit Russia. Anwar, who arrived in Russia on Tuesday, is on a 4-day official visit to the country. And in a bid to boost connectivity and strengthen people-to-people ties between both countries, Anwar has called for the resumption of direct flights to Malaysia. The Prime Minister raised the matter during his bilateral meeting with Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin. Held at the House of Government in Moscow, the 45-minute meeting marked his first official engagement with his counterpart. Anwar said improved air links would support tourism, education and business engagement between Malaysians and Russians. To further cement ties, Anwar extended an official invitation to Mishustin to visit Malaysia with a delegation of government and business leaders in the future. At a separate event, Anwar pledged that measures will be taken to simplify the voting process for Malaysians living abroad, especially students, ahead of the next general election. He was responding to concerns raised by Malaysian students in Russia who said their distance from the embassy in Moscow makes it difficult for them to vote. Anwar also emphasized that any improvements made would include efforts to enhance transparency and accountability in the electoral process.
Dan kalau kita gunakan blockchain, dia memang pastikan daripada masa mengundi sampai akhir tidak boleh ada tampering dan boleh panggil semua parti melihat dan menyaksikan proses itu supaya tidak ada pelanggaran.
The Prime Minister said the Election Commission has been alerted to the matter for further action. Anwar's visit has already begun to sow the seeds of economic cooperation, with major Russian industry players expressing strong interest in forging strategic partnerships with Malaysian companies in the areas of food manufacturing, agriculture and financial services. Upon arrival in Moscow, the Prime Minister was accorded a ceremonial welcome, a historic moment as he becomes the first Malaysian leader in nearly 2 decades to receive such honours on Russian soil. Anwar kicked off his official visit by chairing a roundtable meeting with prominent Russian business leaders.
We are here on the invitation of President Vladimir Putin, whom I met last year at Vladivostok and had extensive discussions. And our commitment was Malaysia as a policy of neutrality, engaging with all countries.
At the same time, Malaysia is looking to expand its trade footprint across several key sectors, including palm oil, furniture manufacturing, chemicals and pharmaceuticals. Russia is currently Malaysia's 9th largest trading partner in Europe. Last year, total trade between the two countries reached 11.4 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, Anwar appointed Plantation and Commodities Minister Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani as Malaysia's coordinating minister for Russia. The appointment is based on Johari's experience in navigating increasingly complex trade landscapes. Speaking in Moscow during the Prime Minister's official visit, Johari stressed the need for Malaysia to recalibrate its trade strategy with Russia, particularly in light of ongoing Western sanctions on the Kremlin, which have disrupted banking transactions and impacted Malaysian exporters.
Jadi saya bertanggungjawab nak melihat perkara ini, bagaimana kita boleh menyusun balik strategi untuk melihat kepada pihak bank, pihak penjual, pengimport dan pengeksport untuk bagaimana kita boleh buat benda-benda yang tidak boleh menjejaskan sebarang pertalian kita dengan negara lain.
Russia has been under multiple rounds of economic sanctions from Western nations since 2014. Despite this, Malaysia sees significant trade potential with Russia, especially in key commodities such as palm oil and rubber.
Kalau kita tengok ekspor negara untuk kementerian ini 186 bilion. Kelapa sawit saja last year approximately about 115 billion. Kemudian kalau kita tengok kita punya rubber product 37 billion. Kalau kita tengok kita punya wood and wood product furniture 22 billion. Kita punya cocoa export 15 billion.
Johari is one of the key senior figures in Malaysia's delegation accompanying the Prime Minister on his 4-day official visit to Russia. Back home in Pulau Penang, the state's former Deputy Chief Minister too, P. Ramasamy, claimed trial at the Sessions Court in Butterworth on Wednesday to 17 counts of criminal breach of trust. He was charged with CBT involving 850,000 ringgit in his capacity as the state's Hindu Endowment Board PHEB chairman at the time. Ramasamy was alleged to have misused the property entrusted to him by PHEB to make payments totaling 779,131 ringgit and 29 cents through cheques and telegraphic transfers for the purchase of gold for PHEB without the approval of its board of directors. This occurred on 13 separate occasions between 2019 and 2023. He was also charged with criminal breach of trust by making payments totaling 65,000 ringgit between 2020 and 2021 from PHEB to 2 individuals on different occasions as medical aid without the approval of the PHEB board of directors. Finally, he was charged with dishonestly making payments totaling 15,000 ringgit to 2 individuals on different occasions as education aid without the approval of the PHEB board of directors. Ramasamy was charged under Section 409 of the Penal Code, which provides for a maximum jail term of 20 years, whipping and a fine upon conviction. Sessions Court Judge Zulhazmi Abdullah allowed total bail of 78,000 ringgit in 2 sureties for all 17 charges. He also ordered Ramasamy to surrender his passport and to report to the Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission MACC once a month. The court set July 15th for mention of the case. The driver of a lorry involved in an accident that claimed the lives of 9 Federal Reserve Unit FRU policemen in Teluk Intan, Perak on Tuesday has been remanded for 4 days. The remand application was submitted by Hile Perak District Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Bakri Zainal Abidin, who personally attended the proceedings on Tuesday. Magistrate Naidatul Atira Azman granted the remand order for 4 days until Saturday. The case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act for reckless driving causing death. On Tuesday, police confirmed that the lorry driver has 6 past convictions, including those for theft and rape. The Cabinet has given the Transport Ministry 1 month to complete a report on the tragedy. Communications Minister Datuk Fahmi Fadil said the report will be prepared by a special committee that will focus on non-criminal aspects of the incident.
Jemaah Menteri telah memutuskan bahawa laporan dari Menteri Pengangkutan, dari Kementerian Pengangkutan perlu disiapkan dalam tempoh 1 bulan dan dibentangkan semula ke Jemaah Menteri sebelum sebarang keputusan dibuat.
Fahmi said the committee's findings will be separate from the ongoing police investigation. Meanwhile, police will call in at least 60 witnesses to assist in the investigation into the tragic accident, with police focusing on witnesses who can support preliminary findings.
So kita akan melihat dari semua sudut yang disebutkan tadi, kecuaian manusia, isu-isu teknikal yang melibatkan kenderaan dan juga isu-isu persekitaran.
Meanwhile, he said one of the injured victims is currently in the intensive care unit at the Raja Permaisuri Bainon Hospital in Ipoh. The FRU personnel suffered abdominal and head injuries. 8 others are still receiving follow-up treatment at the Telok Intan Hospital. Malaysia's gross domestic product GDP figures for the first quarter are set to challenge market expectations as investors attempt to untangle a complex mix of past trade distortions and growing concerns over the country's economic exposure to China. According to advanced estimates, GDP growth moderated to 4.4% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2025, down from 5.0% in the final quarter of last year. The slowdown occurred despite a temporary boost from firms front-loading exports ahead of anticipated tariff increases. Industry experts said this indicates that the economy was already losing momentum even before the trade turbulence peaked. With China still struggling to reignite demand and stabilize prices, the knock-on effects are being felt across the region, and Malaysia is particularly exposed. Palm oil inventories are expected to rise by 15% month-on-month in May to 2.15 million tonnes, driven by stronger production. At the same time, crude palm oil (CPO) output is expected to grow by 4% to 1.75 million tonnes, while palm oil exports are projected to increase by 8% to 1.19 million tonnes. In terms of biodiesel, the Indonesian Ministry of Energy reported consumption of 4.4 billion litres from January 1st to April 24th of this year, keeping it broadly on track to meet its annual target of 15.6 billion litres. Meanwhile, Malaysian closing palm oil stocks rose 19% month-on-month and 7% year-on-year to 1.87 million tonnes in April, the highest level in 6 months, driven by higher output. Stock levels exceeded the firm's forecast of 1.68 million tonnes and Bloomberg's estimate of 1.79 million tonnes, owing to higher than expected production. Moving to international developments now, and a major diplomatic shift in Latin America. China and Colombia signed a landmark agreement on Wednesday that brings Bogota into the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The deal was sealed during a meeting in Beijing where President Xi Jinping and Colombian leader Gustavo Petro also discussed strategic cooperation. Xi pledged over $9 billion in development credit to the region, calling for high-quality partnership under the BRI. Meanwhile, Petro said the move marks a new chapter in Colombia's foreign relations, promising future engagement on equality and freedom. China's Belt and Road Initiative has already attracted over 2/3 of Latin America, and the region continues to grow closer to Beijing as the country expands its influence and investment globally. 3 bank officers busted over multi-million ringgit loan scam. This and more after the break.
Anda usahawan, pemilik bisnes atau produk? Jom ke Media Prima SME Open Day 14 dan 15 Mei ini. Temui personaliti Media Prima, pakar industri untuk tips menarik bagi meningkatkan bisnes anda ke tahap lebih tinggi melalui platform kami. Serta alami sendiri lawatan eksklusif dan pakej pengiklanan bersepadu kami dengan tawaran istimewa untuk anda. Semua ini percuma. Jangan tunggu lagi. Imbas kod tertera untuk mendaftar tempat anda. Jumpa nanti.
Menarik di Hemicai.
Ambil langkah keselamatan ketika mendaki gunung supaya tidak berakhir dengan tragedi.
Badan kerap berpeluh dan berbau. Apa puncanya?
Sekarang wajib papar tanda harga ubat di klinik dan hospital demi hak pengguna.
Ramai pelajar SPM gagal dalam subjek matematik. Susah sangat ke nak bermain dengan nombor?
Soal Wang membincangkan subsidi telur ayam yang bakal dihapuskan.
Isnin hingga Jumaat jam 10 pagi.
Boleh stream ditonton juga eksklusif di TV3.
Dia dengan anak muda yang lebih cenderung kepada teknologi terkini kan.
Pada awalnya saya nak perlukan orang yang legend yang boleh memberi kata semangatlah kepada anak-anak muda.
Kita dah ada department effect. Yang mana department effect tu dia boleh generatekan effect tu dalam dunia 3D.
Ada interaction yang banyak dengan audiens, so audiens akan lagi seronok.
Especially peminat-peminat Asian Ali akan suka sebab lama juga dia orang tunggu kan.
Hari Ahad malamlah paling best nak layan filem-filem blockbuster di TV3. Syaram! Cintan-cintun luar angkasa pun ada.
It's gonna be okay.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Berdebar tak berdebar ni? Layan filem-filem hebat Mei ini di TV3 Blockbuster dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Welcome back. The federal court has reserved judgment on the appeals brought by 6 men, including a former military doctor who was sentenced to death for the murder of Deputy Public Prosecutor Dato' Anthony Kevin Marais 10 years ago. Chief Justice Tun Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat, who led a 3-member bench, said they needed time to deliberate on the oral and written submissions presented by defence lawyers and the prosecution. Lengthy submissions were made on the facts and the law over 3 days beginning in March. The panel hearing the appeal included Justices Tan Sri Abang Iskandar Abang Hashim and Datuk Rosaria Bujang. On Wednesday, Deputy Public Prosecutor Yusaini Abdul Karim urged the judges to dismiss lawyer Amir Hamzah Arshad's call for the bench to adopt the dual crimes principle applied in Singapore when a crime involves a single incident. Last year, the Court of Appeal upheld the death penalty imposed on ex-military doctor R. Kunasigaran, S. Ravichandran, R. Dineshwaran, K. Tinesh Kumar, M. Vishwanath and Nemalan. The High Court sentenced all the accused to death on July 10, 2020 after they were found guilty of murdering Marais on September 4, 2015, somewhere between Sentul, Kuala Lumpur and Subang Jaya in Selangor. The 3 bank officers caught for alleged money laundering and corruption have been remanded for 5 days. The suspects were remanded at the Putrajaya Sessions Court on Wednesday. The trio were believed to have used, possessed and laundered funds from bribe payments received from 3 companies in 2024. Based on early investigations, one of the 3 was a department head who had received bribes of over 170,000 ringgit from 3 companies that had applied for 5 loans worth 21 million ringgit. The money was payment for processing and approving the loans. The case is being investigated under the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act. Meanwhile, a former executive director is among 3 individuals remanded by the MECC under suspicion of conspiring to submit false documents in claims amounting to 2.5 million ringgit. The 5-day remand order until May 18th was granted by the Putrajaya Sessions Court. The suspects, a man and 2 women, are aged in their 20s to 40s. Sources said the trio were detained between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Tuesday while providing statements at the MECC headquarters in Putrajaya. They are believed to have committed the offence between 2022 and 2024, involving reimbursement and bonus payment claims. In Terengganu, a police inspector pleaded not guilty at the Kuala Terengganu Sessions Court to charges of receiving 23,000 ringgit in bribes to release 3 men linked to a drug case 4 years ago. The 37-year-old accused, Khairul Faiz Muhammad Zaini, entered the plea after the 2 charges were read before Judge Muhammad Azhar Othman. The accused was charged under the MECC Act, which provides for a prison term of up to 20 years and a fine of not less than 5 times the amount or value of the bribe, or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher. Following the recorded plea of not guilty, the court set June 18th for mention of the case and appointment of counsel. The court also allowed the accused to be released on bail of 7,000 ringgit. Rare unity. Saudi Arabia and US push for a Gaza ceasefire. The details when Nightline returns.
Hari Ahad malam lah paling best nak layan filem-filem blockbuster di TV3. Syarami! Cintun luar angkasa pun ada.
It's gonna be okay.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Berdebar tak berdebar ni? Layan filem-filem hebat Mei ini di TV3 Blockbuster dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Menarik di Hemicai.
Ambil langkah keselamatan ketika mendaki gunung supaya tidak berakhir dengan tragedi.
Badan kerap berpeluh dan berbau. Apa puncanya?
Sekarang wajib papar tanda harga ubat di klinik dan hospital demi hak pengguna.
Ramai pelajar SPM gagal dalam subjek matematik. Susah sangat ke nak bermain dengan nombor?
Soal Wang membincangkan subsidi telur ayam yang bakal dihapuskan.
Isnin hingga Jumaat jam 10 pagi.
Boleh stream ditonton juga eksklusif di TV3. Rasa kusut atau serabut? Jom kita pergi healing. Ada macam-macam cara tak nak tenangkan fikiran. Berkhemah, mengopi. Macam-macam lagi lah. Banyak menu yang menggunakan santan. Masak kari, masak lemak, semuanya sedap-sedap. Dendam yang tak pernah pudar ni tak elok tau. Kadang-kadang boleh memakan diri sendiri juga. Strok dan darah tinggi saling berkaitan. Apa yang perlu kita ketahui dan adakah ada rawatan terkini? Terima kasih cikgu. Istimewa sambutan hari kedua bersama kami. Semuanya di WSHI TV3 dan stream sekarang ditonton.
Wanita hari ini.
Turning to foreign news now, a Japanese military training aircraft crashed on Wednesday in the central prefecture of Shizuoka with 2 crew members on board who are feared dead. The aircraft lost contact during a routine training flight from Hamamatsu Air Base, and the wreckage was later found in the remote mountainous area. Defense officials said the cause of the crash is still under investigation. However, weather conditions at the time were reportedly poor. The incident marks the latest in a series of accidents involving Japan's self-defense forces, raising fresh questions over safety and maintenance standards. Saudi Arabia and the United States have agreed on the need to end the war in Gaza, said Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan after the conclusion of the GCC-US summit held in the Kingdom on Wednesday.
ونسعى معكم فخامة الرئيس وبالتعاون مع أشقائنا في دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي لوقف التصعيد في المنطقة وإنهاء الحرب في غزة وإيجاد حل دائم وشامل للقضية الفلسطينية وفقا لمبادرة السلام العربية والقرارات الدولية ذات الصلة.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman also called for an immediate ceasefire and urged the uninterrupted delivery of humanitarian aid into the Strip. Meanwhile, the US reiterated its opposition to a full-scale offensive in Rafah, warning it could trigger a deeper humanitarian disaster. Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, continues to push for a 2-state solution and a permanent end to hostilities. Gaza remains the top priority as diplomatic efforts to halt the bloodshed gather momentum. Earlier, US President Donald Trump announced that the United States will lift remaining sanctions on Syria in a move he claims will open the door to peace and reconstruction. Trump met with new Syrian leader Ahmed al-Sharaa in a stunning engagement on Wednesday in Saudi Arabia. Speaking from Riyadh, the former president also revealed a massive deal with Saudi Arabia worth $600 billion, covering energy, infrastructure and defense investments. Trump then called it a historic day for the Middle East and said the package will bring jobs to Americans, security to Saudi Arabia and a path forward for Syria. Switching to sports now with squash and the 2025 PSA Squash World Championships in Chicago. S. Sivasangari became the first Malaysian squash player to reach the quarterfinals of the World Championship since 2017 after defeating Amanda Sobey on Tuesday. The world number 9 produced a stunning display in the women's draw, brushing aside American world number 8 Sobey 11-8, 14-12, 11-6 in just 32 minutes in the third round, extending her winning streak to 3 matches. Sivasangari will next take on world number 4 Olivia Weaver of the United States on Thursday for a place in the semi-finals. Meanwhile, national men's squash player Ng Yen Yao marked the end of his campaign at the championships after suffering a defeat to Egyptian world number 1 Mustafa Asal 4-11, 6-11, 7-11 in the third round. Badminton now. The 2025 Thailand Open national men's doubles pair Arif Junaidi and Yap Roy King aim to replicate their previous result at a Super 500 tournament after winning their first round match on Wednesday. The 6-seeded duo defeated India's world number 44 K. Sai Pratik and P. Krishnamurti Roy 22-20, 17-21, 21-18 in a match lasting 1 hour and 3 minutes. The duo will face either compatriots Aaron Tai and Kang Kai Jing or Thailand's Paranyu Kausamang Thanadon Pumpanich in the second round. In the men's singles, unseeded Aidil Sholeh Ali Sadikin overclassed China's world number 32 Wang Zhengjing 21-12, 19-21, 21-18. He will next face China's 8th seed Lu Guangzhou in the round of 16. National women's pair Pearly Tan and M. Tina breezed through India's world number 87 Sanya Sikandar and Rashmi Ganesh in the first round, claiming a 21-11, 21-5 victory in just 24 minutes. The top seeds are set to face Indonesian duo Lanitria Mayasari and Siti Fadia Silva Ramadanti next. Also advancing in the women's doubles are Teo Mei Jing and Goh Pei Ki, who had to dig deep in their first round clash against Taiwan's Chen Su-yu Xie Yi-in, but came through with a 21-15, 18-21, 21-15 victory after 48 minutes. The pair will face Indonesian pair Melissa Trias Puspitasari and Rachel Alicia Rose in the next round. Moving on to Sepak Takraw, the 2025 Asian Cup in Kuala Lumpur. The national squad secured their spot in the semi-finals of the Regu event after breezing through Brunei 2-0 on Wednesday night. In their quarter-final clash at the Titi Wangsa Stadium, Malaysia's trio Muhammad Haziq Hairul Nizam as Tekong, Vida Farhan Adam and Muhammad Azlan Alias as the striker delivered an outstanding performance, taking the first set 15-7. Building on their momentum, Malaysia dominated the second set 15-4 and a spot in the semi-finals. Malaysia will next face Vietnam with the match set to decide who advances to the final. The FRU personnel who perished in the Teluk Intan accident were laid to rest with full police honours. 9 of them died in Tuesday's tragedy. With that, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching.